So welcome to the third International Creative Industries Festival held here at Oxford Brookes. I am Dr Shelly Coe. I am one of the co-leads of another research network here at Brookes, so the Children and Young People Network. So obviously a lot of overlap with this session, but also the two networks. And I will be chairing today's session. First, going to introduce you to Samuel Conley, who is the Outreach and Community Manager for the Creative Mentor Network, and also together with Ellen Nicholson from Soho Farmhouse Mentorship Program, and they'll be discussing the value of mentoring young creatives. So I'll hand over in a moment for that, but following Samuel's and Ellen's session, I'll then hand over to Lucy Turner, who is the Associate Dean of Education and Student Experience here at Brookes, and she will be joined by Catherine Lay, who is a third-year music student, and also Lucy Phillips, who is the Brookes Creative Project Manager. And they will talk probably for about 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes maybe, about their experience of running a Students as Partners initiative to help connect creative industries with Oxford Brookes art students. And then at the end, we'll reserve hopefully sort of about 10 minutes or so for questions. So welcome again. And Samuel, I will hand over to you.
Awesome. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. I'm really pleased to be joined by Ellen today, who's in the room with us as well. So we'll get into kind of who we are and what we do in a bit. I just want to say thank you for joining. We've got some wicked opportunities to share with you today, and I'm really glad to be here. So we're Creative Mentor Network. So firstly, my name's Sam. So I'm the Outreach Manager at the charity. I've been involved in youth work and the creative industries for almost 8 years now. So I've always kind of straddled between kind of working in education, mostly FE, so 16 to 19, and then also kind of working in the creative world. And what I do for the charity now, so I've been here for 2 years, and my role is to sort of meet young people and let them know what CMN are up to and the opportunities that we have available. And I'd love to introduce the wonderful Ellen. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Hi everyone. Thanks, Sam, very much for that. So yeah, I'm Ellen Nicholson, and I'm Senior Campaigns Manager within the Omnichannel team at Sanofi. So I've been in the creative industries for 15 years, and then I made a switch over into more digital marketing and projects in technology and AI. And yes, my major role is to deliver campaigns out to wellbeing experts and healthcare professionals. Sanofi is a Fortune 500 company, working in consumer health and in pharmaceutical as well. So I'm on the creative side of that.
So a little overview about what we do. So we are a charity, and essentially what our mission is to kind of build a creative industry where people can kind of access for their potential and kind of access the creative world of work, irrespective of their start in life. So what we do is we mainly do mentorship programs. So we offer kind of one-to-one experiences for young people who want to access the creative industries. And we've worked with over 1,500 young people now, kind of in partnership with over 150 creative companies. So we've worked with brands like Sony, Sky, Google, Soho House, Meta, Amazon, and lots of sort of mid-level and kind of smaller creative industry companies as well. So I'll explain a little bit about how that works. We basically pair young creators with mentors, and it's a 16-week program. So if you're 18 to 27, that's what we consider kind of mentee age. You basically get a one-to-one experience where you can kind of be matched with someone who works in and around the field that you want to access, and they will help you develop skills and network to kind of access the creative industry that you're interested in getting involved with. Just to kind of clarify what we mean by the creative industries, I've just flashed them on the screen there for you. I know you had a whole week of Creative Industry Festival from your uni, so hopefully you're kind of more clued up on this than I am at the moment. But when I'm talking about the creative industries here, this is what I mean. So if you've got interest in any of these things, this is the type of areas and mentors that we have available to help you. So quick overview of what a mentor is. By definition, it's a wise and trusted counselor or teacher, and an influential senior sponsor or supporter who can help you along. And some of the main things that a mentor would help you with are things like education, kind of helping understand the creative industries, what roles are available, connection, so actually building that network for you and helping you to meet people in the industry you want to access. Experience, so I'm sure many of you are thinking about how to get work experience or kind of how to get hands-on experience on projects. a mentor can help you with that, and upskilling as well. So developing skills like confidence and resilience and self-awareness. So when you get matched with a mentor, typically it will be a mixture of all of those 4 things, but that's just to show you an overview of the things that you might want to focus on if you did get a mentorship with us. The mentorship that we're talking about today is in collaboration with Soho Farmhouse. So Soho House have been one of our partnership mentor companies for about 4 years now. So we've delivered mentorships with them all across the country, actually. We've done lots of different programs with them with hundreds of young people. And we're on our 3rd program with the Soho Farmhouse, which is upcoming in a few months. So that's the kind of program that we're talking about today, because I think probably because you're based in the area as students, that will probably be the one that's most relevant and interesting to you. So just in case you don't know, so Soho House is a group of members clubs originally aimed at those in the arts, politics and media. It's originally based in 40 Greek Street, London, but it now has clubs, hotels and venues around the world. They've got a massive stake in the creative industries, and they do lots and lots of events and kind of creative industry focused kind of activities that make it a place that, if you do want access to creative industries, it's a great place to have access to. So we set the mentorship up in 2018. It's a 16-week program, as I mentioned earlier, and essentially how it works is we connect Soho House members, so people who are already members of their community and kind of more senior in their creative worlds. We connect them with young people kind of in their local city to help grow connections, confidence and experience. And each mentee is given access to the Soho House community as well. So you do get kind of access to the space for events and kind of networking opportunities. And we're doing it all over the world. So we don't run all of these. CMN only run the kind of UK-based ones, but Soho Mentorship does happen in London, New York, Amsterdam, Toronto, Berlin, Los Angeles, Chicago, Mumbai, Hong Kong, Brighton, Manchester, and of course, Oxfordshire. So that's what we'll be talking about today. So it's a kind of a global mentorship program, and it's got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of young people who have been through it. So if you look online, there's actually a lot of great, amazing testimonials from all around the world of mentees who have been through the program and kind of benefited from it. The great thing about this program is all mentors are Oxfordshire based, which I think is really powerful. If you're living in that area, it's great to know kind of who in your community is from the creative industries and what they do. So it's a great chance for you to kind of access and become part of your local community of professionals. So I'm really happy to be joined today by Ellen, who's introduced herself. So I want to make sure we get kind of plenty of time for Ellen to speak about being a mentor. So what I'll do, Ellen, is I'm going to kind of throw some questions at you, if that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Really good to hear your perspective and kind of talk about kind of your time on the program and kind of what you experienced. So we've already explained what your name and what you do is. We'd really love to hear what inspired you to become a mentor on the Soho Farmhouse program.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Sam. So thank you for the opportunity and to speak to everyone today. So yes, I guess the inspiration first of all was communication from a member of Soho Farmhouse. So I was able to react to that and read up on why this is so important and increasingly becoming really important for in education and beyond in your early parts of your career, to give you direction. But I guess inspiration was that I didn't have a mentor at university. I did go to university. It took me a long time to really focus down on a deep dive on what I needed to do in order to get on, and it took a long time. So my inspiration came from having those challenges early on, and sometimes not going in a direction that was best. And I think if I could have paused and actually reflected, very supportive parents, but I didn't have that at the age where it could have maybe benefited me. So yeah, the other reason the inspiration is because there's a lot of structural change in society at the moment, and young people do not necessarily have the same opportunities. You've got student loans, you've got a lot of pressures in terms of housing markets. It's a wider structural change. I think the challenges are really there for Gen Z. So that is one of the reasons why I wanted to jump on board with this, so to offer whatever support and counsel I can to the person that I was mentoring, and to give that opportunity to give back, but genuinely to try to level the playing field for access into roles which have traditionally been, as you've probably seen on these presentations, about who you know, and it's about opening doors, and if I can open it a chink so that you can go through that door and optimize talents, that's really my inspiration.
Awesome, thank you so much for that. So kind of looking at your experience as a mentor, Ellen, and also I guess as a mentee in your career as well, kind of what would you say the benefits of having a mentor is for someone who kind of might be starting that journey?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, there's eight times opportunities to meet with mentees during the programme. You got me as a dedicated resource, if you like, once every 2 weeks, to provide guidance, knowledge, direction where I can to the mentee I was paired with. The benefits are to have a listening ear, a coaching, and also listening to any issues, whether you're in education or the early part of your career, if required, and support that as well. Some of the other benefits in a sort of wider capacity are to build relationships. So, how do you get into Meta? How do you get into Google? How do you get that first step in the door of the BBC? It's that first step. So it's optimizing and taking the opportunity to build relationships with your mentor in their own networking, and also one of the other benefits is problem solving. So that's a huge issue. How do I get into these organizations to find out what opportunities there are, apprenticeships or graduate jobs? So how that is a problem solve. So what are the solutions there? And I think mentoring over the period of 16 weeks can give you the initial signposts and directions on how to structure that as you work out what you want to do in the creative industries. So I'd say some of those benefits are the ones I've just mentioned.
So it sounds like university level is probably a really good time actually to kind of get involved in this.
Absolutely, because you've got the time to research, and if you work with your mentor, to find out if that's really the direction you want to go in, or maybe you can switch a bit and do some exploration. You might find that if you, excuse me, like my mentee worked very hard on the graphic side of the podcast and found she had a real aptitude for the graphics, so she's moving in that direction now. So
next up we have really interested to kind of ask mentors this question as well, because many mentors will say that they've had a series of mentors kind of in their own career. So it'd be really interested to hear, Ellen, kind of in your time, who would you consider a mentor to help you, or who has helped you?
Yeah, so I think first mentor I had was in my first production role, and I worked with a very talented pair of women who set up one of the early sort of satellite TV channels, if you like, and it was a female-based channel, so very targeting that. It was very exploratory and sort of groundbreaking in many ways. So my mentor taught me how to work at pace and at pressure without putting me on the spot, and was able to show me how I could use it as a springboard to go into other areas. So it would open up lots of opportunities. Another mentor, once I got into the BBC, I was paired with a fantastic creative director who was very positive. I was always learning from her. And even if a particular piece of creative work wasn't right, and you gave 3 options, for example, to go to air, what I mean is to be streamed, she would always come back and be encouraging rather than knocking your ideas. And that can be very challenging in the early parts of your career to have those sort of knockbacks. So it's always about being positive, and find yourself somebody who's going to focus on the positives rather than negatives. And those sort of mentors worked really well for me. I had then skipping forward into my digital career and my more campaign management side, I worked with another lady for 2 years, extremely pressurized environment at a high level, and she was mentoring me in terms of working at global levels to introduce change management. So it's more managerial, if you like, but essentially the mentoring has the same goals. And from that, I was able to springboard into another role. And what she mentored me in was confidence to speak in, this is during lockdown, in meetings and negotiation and persuasion. So the mentors can carry on all the way through your career. It's not like you get to university and then you stop at 25, 30. They're really essential, and it's a sort of lifelong learning.
Yes, that's something we often hear from mentors, is that, you know, it's a continuous thing that you kind of have throughout your whole life. Kind of any stage of career that you're at, you kind of have people that do mentor you and kind of help you in different areas. So it's really interesting to hear that from you. It's actually worth mentioning, I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but for our mentorship program that we do with Soho Farmhouse, the mentors do receive training as well. So we do training sessions with them prior to being introduced to the mentee, just to sort of make sure that they are focused on things like goal setting, kind of career development, and kind of knowing how to kind of structure the program to help their mentee. You just made me think of that, Ellen, when you kind of were speaking there.
Absolutely. Just to say that goal setting, something that the mentors through my career, they worked with me on those as well.
Awesome. And how would you say mentoring can help mentees build relationships and networks? I think it also might be nice as well to sort of, because this is a localized program, to speak about, you know, maybe the benefits of how joining this might be kind of a good time to help them understand their local community creatively as well.
Yeah, so I think that's, how can it help mentees build relationships? Within Oxfordshire, there's big creative network, and of course Oxford being a centre of excellence. What you can do is work with your mentor to find out those local inputs. So for example, what are in that table that Sam shared earlier, whichever creative area that you're in, you pick that, and then you can go and research with your mentor how to get access into those companies. So we know that the big cities, we've got London, Manchester, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Exeter, you know, they're big cities with many creative companies. For Oxfordshire, there will also be big large creative companies, from publishing through to broadcast and streaming services. So you need to be able to build those connections with your mentor, and getting introductions as well. So where you can actually physically get out and go and have a maybe a tour of a production company, radio. I think that's something that I would fully recommend if you're working with a local mentor, see where they have relationships with creative companies within Oxfordshire. Of course, you know, social media, huge. So I think you can build those networks by meeting through those programs once every 2 weeks, and particularly focusing on that locally. So you might work in Oxford, you maybe want to keep it close to home because you know, traveling can be a big challenge.
Thank you very much. You kind of touched on something that I think is worth mentioning as well. If anyone is interested in kind of being a mentee, like one thing that I particularly love about the Soho mentorship program is that the mentors are always from like such different creative industries. You know, you really do get a wide range of people from varying different kind of creative backgrounds. So it's actually really open-ended. So no matter what you're interested in here, like even if it's down to things like kind of business, you know, building a brand, social media, everything to sort of music to, you know, broadcasting, television, there's a wide range of mentors there who are able to support you. So it's a really exciting program. I'm going to ask this final question to you, Ellen, and it's kind of a chance, I guess, to talk about your time a little bit. Did you kind of enjoy the fact that the program was Oxfordshire based and kind of meeting your mentee, knowing that they were kind of based in your local community?
Yeah, that was an absolute big plus for me. And while I was doing the training to be a mentor, it was really easy to get up to the farmhouse, spend some time there. It was good to coordinate and actually meet at Soho Farmhouse face to face. I think we did get a lot more, I think, out of the sessions. We did have a couple on Zoom as well, but to be able to meet face to face and encourage that exchange of information had real advantages. I also have family in West Oxfordshire, so my mum lives in Witney, so I was able to sort of spend time with her, so that was quite nice as well. The area is absolutely brilliant. It's based in a great part of the country, so being local means that you can really take advantage of those creative industries that are, as Sam was talking about, close to home. So yeah, for me, travelling up to London, where it's expensive, you've got travelling expenses. You can, I believe, get the bus or the train out to Charlbury. So for you, I think keeps the costs down, and to be local as well, it just adds that extra flavour and dimension, and the ability to meet.
And we do have for mentees as well. Soho Farmhouse kindly organised a shuttle bus that goes back and forth. So if you're our mentee, who kind of wants to get out there and kind of meet your mentor in person at the farmhouse, which most of the mentors and mentees do, there's a free shuttle bus that goes back and forth that you get the timetable to that you can access as well. So you just reminded me of that as well. And thank you so much for those questions. I think we're kind of almost right on time. I'm just going to run over a couple of things about the mentorship, and then I know that we're going to hand over to the rest of the group. So just for anyone in here who wondered about kind of how the process works. So if you are interested in being a mentee with us, first thing you do is apply, and I'll give you the form to that at the end of this, and I'll share it around with your tutors as well. It takes 10 to 15 minutes maximum, and it's basically just a form for us to get to understand kind of who you are and what you do. We then invite you to an interview closer to the time of the program. You do a Zoom interview of us that takes 10 minutes online, and it's basically a 3D view of who you are, kind of what your creative interests are, that allows us to basically know what the appropriate type of match would be for you. You then get matched if we do an appropriate mentor for you. And then you do 16 weeks of mentoring. As Ellen said, it's roughly 1 hour every 2 weeks. So it's sort of 8 hours across all 16 weeks. So it's totally manageable around any prior commitments you have. And we have lots of kind of university students previously kind of on our programs as well. So it is manageable around what you're doing. You do a midpoint mixer as well. So we do a mixer where you get to meet all the other mentees and mentors, hosted at Soho Farmhouse. And then there's a showcase at the end where you can, if you want to, kind of show what you've done on the program and, share with the rest of the group. Usually about, 4 or 5 mentees from the group will do that. And it's a really great way to celebrate kind of what you've done throughout your time in the program. I'm going to share a bit of kind of stats here that's always helpful, benefits of networking. So the Gatsby Foundation did look into kind of careers activities at schools and universities in the UK, and they found that when they spoke to young people who have left schooling and university, they found that those who engaged in 4 or more activities while at school were 5 times less likely to be unemployed and earn on average 16% more than peers who recalled no such activity. So even you joining something like today, counts as one of those activities. So well done to everyone who's joined, because it is these types of things that allow you to kind of grow your network and understand what's out there. So well done for that. And obviously stuff like mentoring and kind of extracurricular stuff that you can do alongside your creative subjects will benefit you in the long run in terms of looking at employment for the future. I'm going to leave that QR code on the screen so you can scan that, and that should take you through to the application form. It's worth mentioning quickly that the next Soho Farmhouse program is going to be happening or kicking off in October. So we're starting recruitment from around now. So you're basically the first to hear about the 3rd program. So, get in there quickly while you can. You can apply through that link. It is on the application form at the moment. So we do it in chronological order. So the earlier that you apply, the better chance you do have of getting your interview. So I would recommend to get those applications in where you can. I'm always on hand to help you out if you need assistance, and you can kind of contact us online as well.
Great. Thanks very much, Samuel and Ellen. That was very, very interesting, and well done for ending on time, because that's sometimes the hardest thing to do with virtual presentations. I will hand over to Lucy Turner and team to present your panel session, I believe.
Thanks, Shelley. So I would say that this isn't really a kind of presentation as such, more an open discussion. So I've got loads of questions for Sam and loads of questions for Helen, but I'll just sort of give you some context as why I'm in the room. So Brookes Creative is a Students as Partners project, which we started because we felt that the students needed greater organisation, really, in terms of connecting with the creative industry professionals. And we work through live projects, work experience, placements, and things like that. And we've got a website with all of our activities on and all of the different content that we've put out there. What's really important about our project is that it was designed and built by students, really, and me and Lucy were sort of more facilitators than anything else. And they wrote a manifesto of what they wanted this project to achieve and what they felt was really important. And one of those things was to reach students who really need to grow their network, who don't have much social capital, who perhaps are lacking in confidence to put themselves forward for things. And I think the Creative Mentor Network really reflects very much what we aim to achieve in terms of trying to increase confidence, upskill students, and grow their network. And we would very much like to evolve our mentoring network here at Brookes. So at Brookes, we do have a mentoring network. It's open to all students across the university, but it is very generic. And, you know, a lot of our students have said in our research that they really like the idea of things being very tailored and bespoke to what they want. So we're just thinking about how we can grow the creative industries sort of network side of that. And I guess what would be good for us to discuss today is to learn what intrinsic motivation students need to tap into in order to come forward and approach the application, really, and how do they apply for a mentor? Because I think as much as we want to reach those students, do they have the confidence to do it? And so I guess my question to students and to everyone in the room is, how do we engage those students with putting themselves forward to be linked to a mentor?
Good question.
I think it's quite tricky.
Yeah, I think I've got a couple of bullet points, I think, on that, because I do, typically help students with the application process and kind of, all across the programs that we do. So I can talk a little bit about that, and then it would be cool, actually, maybe Ellen, if you could also say a couple of things about like just from your perspective, like, what you kind of liked about your mentee, or what you think makes a good mentee. Because I think that might be able to actually look at kind of the expectations and maybe, realize what the expectation is, and that might help young people to apply. So in terms of application, I do often find that I think sometimes mentees might, not have the confidence to apply because their expectations might be that they have to do it a certain way, or they have to be at a certain level already, or that they have to already kind of have something happening to be good enough to have a mentor, sort of thing. And that's kind of a barrier often where a young person might think, or a young creative, and it's easy to fall into, to think, oh, that's for someone else, that's not for me, maybe I'm not ready for that. And what I always say to that is, there's a reason we exist, and we exist because we want to help people who have an interest in creativity. So you don't actually have to have a business, you don't have to even be, consider yourself talented in the area that you are working in. You literally just have to have a curiosity. That's all that we ask of you, a curiosity to understand what the creative industries are, and a little bit of a kind of want to maybe understand what opportunities there might be in the future. So I would definitely say that, maybe think about it in a bit more of a broader sense, and, realize that your mentor it's a process that you'll go on with your mentor, and they'll be able to help you with lots of different things and a whole range of things that you might not even realize yet, that might be things that you need to develop or want to develop with a mentor that you might not consider yet. So I'd say definitely, be kind to yourself and kind of don't have your expectations too high on how you should be or where you should be yet, because that's why we're here to help you kind of understand the lay of the land better. And it'd be interesting, Ellen, to kind of from you to kind of think about, what your experience as a mentor are.
So I guess for my mentee, what was impressive was that, she started right at the beginning, and we ended up at the end of the process with a sort of minimal viable product. And I'm extremely proud of her and all that she achieved. So what I'd say for looking for in a mentee, totally agree with Sam. It's not, 2-3 degrees. It's about having the enthusiasm of going through a process. So I'd say that if you're the type of person who can work in like phases, and we all are, just give yourselves, not to see like the big picture, but to work in different phases of what it is you're going to come out with the other end, whether that is an artifact like a piece of textile design, or a short film, or a 30-second podcast, or a piece of graphic design, whatever that is, to sort of break it up into chunks. So you'd be looking for a way of working to sort of move along sort of week 1 or week 2, just researching, and somebody who can come out with some takeaways from that and think, okay, how can I adapt this? So it does help to have a little bit of structure there. But then, each creative person is different. But I think for my mentee, she worked in that way and worked in bursts, and then would come to each meeting with something, obviously come with something to show or to offer. And where she didn't have something to show, it was not a problem, because she was also, and she is working in a very pressurized role and didn't have a lot of hours and was tired. So we worked on that together as well. So it was a wider picture of, yes, getting the podcast minimal viable product done, but also to how does that fit in with her work-life balance. So there's a general learning anyway. So yeah, the enthusiasm was always there. And it's looking for someone who can sort of take that approach where coming out with something at the end, it doesn't have to be, an hour-long film, but it can be just something really small, and to take those learnings and then to be able to grow those afterwards and take the confidence of what you have created and learned along the way.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to come back to that structured bit, and you talked about a product, etc. I'm going to come back to that, but I'm interested to just ask students in the room. I know there's some students in the room. I know we've got Catherine as well. So Catherine is one of our student partners who's helped set up Brookes Creative. Catherine, from your perspective, what do you think the university, different people can do in order to encourage students to put themselves forward to be connected with a mentor?
I think that the first thing to do would be to make that information available. So just to make everyone aware that there is this opportunity that's available. I think without knowing that there is this out there for us to use and to engage with, it's difficult for us to put ourselves up for it. And then, once we know about it, I think actually from conversations with my peers around in music and in the School of Arts, I think everyone is very interested in knowing what's out there for us after university. And I think that it also comes from a sense of nervousness about working in the creative industries, which is, what Brookes Creative was really built on. And so I think in that regards, we're all that combination of nervousness and also wanting to engage more with sort of the real world outside university is already there. And it's just a matter of getting the word out there that there are these mentoring or mentorship opportunities available out there for us, and just getting to know maybe which mentors are available for us to engage with, And yeah, I think that's the main thing from a student point of view, from my point of view.
And do you think timing's important, and maybe what part of the degree you're on? So you're saying about nervousness now because you're coming up to the kind of graduation point, and you know that once that happens, it's like, okay, now I'm in a zone where I've got to find a job. Do you think that's the point at which students are going to engage more with mentoring, or do you think there's a need for it to become earlier in the life cycle of a student? What's your view on that?
I think so the earlier the better. I think maybe in first year we're all finding our footing at university, so maybe there isn't much space to think about this. But once, in second year, at least for music, we really start talking about employability with our work experience module and placements and things. And so once that conversation gets going, it would be great for us to engage with mentoring from then, because right now I'm in my last week of my final year, and then it would be nice if I had something ongoing, so that I didn't feel completely lost right after my last assignment was due. So instead of feeling that immediate cutoff and then needing to find and establish a new relationship with someone, I think it might be really useful and really reassuring to have a relationship that was ongoing before the end of the university experience.
Yeah, that sounds very sensible. So if I can come back to Ellen then, and Sam, actually, just in terms of, you talked about structure and you talked about the podcast that your mentee had produced. Can you describe to us the 16-week program and how important that structure is and what that structure entails? Because I didn't get a sense of the students were having to create something during that 16 weeks. It felt like it was just a connection, and that you would meet for an hour every 2 weeks. And so could you just describe that structure? Because I'm just wondering whether, with the development of mentoring within Brookes Creative, whether it's something we need to have as a much more formal, structured process, or whether it can be a little bit more open and just connecting people and expecting that connection to grow.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. I actually was a mentor previously for the charity before I was working for them as well. So I can talk a little bit, I guess, from that perspective as well. But I think that the structure is really important. It's not a structure in terms of where it's like an assignment where you have to kind of jump through the hoops and have a finished thing at the end that's kind of going to be marked or something like that. It's structured for the fact that it allows the mentor to kind of lead on the kind of development of the mentee's interests and skills. So the mentors do go through kind of training sessions that are focused on two things mainly. One is sort of socioeconomic diversity in the creative industries, but then also a really heavy focus on looking at how to actually support a mentee, like how to do it effectively, how to make sure you're offering value. And it's very mentee focused. So it's not, the structure's there to sort of support the mentee's interests and skills rather than kind of ascribe to a thing that has to be done. So it's more the mentee kind of can lead on what they're interested in, what they want to work on. It could be, I'll give you an example from my mentee. My mentee really wanted to get a job in a studio, a music studio. That was the brief from my mentee. And what we did is we kind of went through a structured process and looking at how he might do that. And quite quickly, actually, he got the job. So what he needed, obviously, was just a bit of accountability and a bit of someone to kind of help, structure his process in a way that allowed him to kind of commit to it and get something out of it. But there's many different outcomes, and that's why the showcases are so good, because you get to see a real insight into what mentors and mentees work on. And sometimes it is an artifact, like Ellen said, where it might be like a podcast that they've worked on, it might be a short film, or it might be something like that. But then other times it might be something a bit more vague. It might be just skills developing of confidence building. It might be a mentee actually realizing that what they want to do. It might be a mentee starting here and then realizing, actually, I realized throughout the process that I actually want to go in this direction. So it's very mentee focused, and the structure's there to help the mentee develop and build that interest.
Great, thank you. And I've just got one more question, and then I'll ask everyone else if they've got any questions. And this is from the perspective of approaching industry to become mentors. Could you give a kind of sense of how many people you ask to be mentors versus how many people say yes? Is it, how intensive is it to try and get people signed up to be mentors?
Yeah, I mean, we do have different programs that sort of have slightly different processes, but I think what might be interesting actually, Ellen, is if maybe we ask you, like, what is it that you saw maybe in this program, or what would, you know, in general kind of get you to commit to the program kind of as an industry professional?
Yeah, so the commitment to join the program was having that initial contact from yourselves and looking through it and thinking, yeah, there's something I can offer here and pass on, and that will translate into helping with guidance and coaching and the SMART goals for mentees. And I think really what it came down to was the brilliant training and being able to put into one place the experiences and career trajectory that I've had, the things I've learned so far, and to be able to put those into how to coach, how to listen effectively, and as Sam said, not to sort of give mentees a program of like an assignment or a project, but to give them a way of thinking and a way of approaching something. And at the end of it, the mentee may not come out with a specific thing. It's the process that they're coming out with, and how to approach going into the creative industries with more confidence, and being able to network and being able to face maybe some setbacks with going forward and trying other paths. So it's about confidence building, resilience. And if that's, when you come out with that as a mentee, that's such a big leap forward. If you come out with a short piece of music or whatever the artifact is, that's also amazing. So yeah, I think what I saw in it was the training and being able to use experiences from my career so far and help in a coaching situation.
Great, thank you. Shelley, shall I open the floor to questions? Oh, we have a question from James. How fortunate. James, would you like to ask your question?
Thanks, Lucy, and thanks, Shelley, and everyone for contributing. I have a question for, I guess, mainly for Samuel, but also for wider discussion. You mentioned briefly the issues around equality and diversity in the creative industries, and obviously that's a huge drive in the sector to make sure that people are being recruited from more diverse backgrounds. So I was wondering how your network specifically tackles those challenges.
Yeah, good question. So we predominantly look at socio-economic background as a sort of lack of diversity in the creative industries, and kind of do research based on that, and kind of use that research to then inform our process. So if you go on our website, we actually launched a book today, which hopefully will explain it really, really well about kind of what we do and why we do it. So that's on there. We're doing a lot on our socials at the moment about that. But essentially what we do is we look at, we use data from the Social Mobility Commission, and kind of we use that to assess our mentees. So it is worth mentioning that for the mentorship programs, we do prioritize mentees who identify via their application forms as being from a lower socioeconomic background. But that's kind of part of the application form that you can kind of do when you sign up to it, and then you get a response from us about whether or not you're eligible. We do also have things that are for people who aren't eligible for the programs, like free events, free networking events, free in-person and virtual stuff that you can get involved in as well. So whether you're a young person that kind of ends up being eligible or not after you've applied, we do try and make sure that there is something for you. But as I said, we kind of make sure that the mentees that we do are predominantly from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, as those are the kind of demographic that will face the most barriers, unfortunately, to getting into the creative industries. And then the mentors kind of will approach from that angle to sort of help the young people face some of those barriers as well.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Samuel. Louise.
Hi. Yes, same question really, but really with looking at neurodiverse colleagues and students. I think recently there's a kind of report out that maybe 20% of people within the creative industries might be neurodiverse. I'm quite interested in if that's something you've started to look at yet.
Yeah, for sure. So it's something that we kind of have as part of the application as well. So at the moment, what we do is we ask the mentees about any additional needs that they might have on the programme. And what we do is we kind of we'll make sure that we understand those needs from the mentee's perspective before they are matched with a mentor. And then we'll make sure that the mentor's briefed on anything appropriate and kind of manage the process throughout that. So through that process, we do kind of make sure that the kind of mentee's needs are kind of looked after, whatever they are. And we do have a wide range of kind of mentees from lots of different sort of situations with, self-identified kind of additional needs that they want assistance with. In terms of research and stuff, to be honest, we are kind of, as I said, predominantly looking at socioeconomic diversity at the moment. So we kind of do keep up to date with the conversations that are happening around neurodiversity, because there's lots of important conversations happening there. And I think, that will help us to inform our practice in the future as well about making sure that we do support mentees kind of into mentorship and kind of further employment as well in those cases.
And what about, again, in terms of mentors? Do you, in terms of training for mentors to work with neurodiverse creatives? I appreciate you might not have got to this yet, but I just wondered if that's something that you, again, have looked at.
Yeah, so we don't have any kind of specific training yet, like in terms of like a training in terms of like we do for the socioeconomic diversity. But what we do is sort of when a mentee has shared their additional needs, we then will kind of have a call with them, have a call with the mentor, and make sure that that's kind of managed and effectively kind of mediated throughout the whole program. And that tends to work well because it allows sort of the mentee as well to kind of be comfortable with the ways that the meetings are happening, where they're happening, how they're happening, kind of what the overall outcome is at the end as well.
We had earlier in the conference, we had a great couple of people who've just done a fantastic series of podcasts around neurodiversity. And one of the things that seems to be kind of coming out in basically me working with my students, but also other people, is the fact that a large number of creatives seem to be diagnosed quite late, and so sometimes it's through a kind of journey of self-discovery that they realize they are in fact neurodiverse, and that might be some of the barriers that they didn't realize. So I just think it's a really interesting thing to kind of open up around mentorship, and I think also this kind of narrative really around mentoring and around the creative industries, that networking is key. And obviously for some students that are neurodiverse, the idea of networking is quite frankly horrific, and because if they are neurodiverse. And so I think that's interesting, because you've got this narrative in terms of Lucy's point earlier about trying to access those students. They kind of go, oh no, that's not for me, I've got to do the kind of lift chat, or I've got to network, and I hate networking. And so it's kind of finding strategies. And it was interesting what the students said about transition as well. So it's like where you can practice strategies so it's not to help you move on. So I think it's just a really interesting conversation that maybe we can have another time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it'd be great to have that conversation. I think it's definitely something that we're seeing kind of more conversations happening about as well. And obviously it's on our radar. We have conversations with mentees about it. So it's definitely something that kind of we've got a real stake in as well, kind of keeping on top of and knowing how to effectively support our mentees as well. So I'd love to have that conversation. May
I just add something there to Louise? So even though I said earlier about the face-to-face meetings, if that's what the mentee wants, that's great, and face-to-face has benefits. But then also neurodiversity, I've had some training within the company I work for. We have a very, very good program of awareness of neurodiversity and employ people from neurodiverse backgrounds. And the remote calls and Zoom calls are actually shown to be beneficial for some people because they actually prefer it. There's not that awkwardness, and there's not, you have to make conversation, because you can actually in a way go directly to what it is you want to talk about. So does have huge benefits as well. And we worked in a hybrid way, myself and my mentee. So some days, I mentioned she was she was working full time and really tired and had some well-being challenges herself. So we did a lot on Zoom, and be 100% flexible, whatever works. And yeah, I just thought I'd add that in because you can work in this hybrid way or completely remote. I think that's correct, isn't it, Sam?
That's absolutely correct, yes.
That's great, thank you. And Louise, do you know the name of the podcast from the neurodiverse session you went to earlier?
Yes, I think it's Square. Thank you, Hannah. Yeah, and so there's a few of us that went, Lucy, including Lucy, and so maybe we could feed back to Brookes Creative about it, because it's a really interesting session that I think you would have enjoyed. And I think everybody, it's just, they have done a fantastic job of it, of pulling together stuff from the sector.
Shelley, have you got any more thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to ask a very quick one, actually, and it's more out of interest. So in terms of the mentees that take part, how many do come on to become mentors themselves?
What is it? This for CMN, you mean?
Yes, yeah, sorry. So Sam, directed at you, yeah.
Right, yeah. So we've been going for, I think 6 years now, 5 or 6 years. And we definitely had a few mentees who have started as mentees before, about 4 years ago or so, and are now mentors on our programs, which is great to see. And I think the cycle is probably about that long, because the mentors usually sort of have about 5 to 7 years minimum experience in their professional field. So I'd say usually after about 4 or 5 years, they're then at the point, especially if they've kind of continued down their career path that they're interested in, that's the point when they become mentors. So definitely hoping to see more as well. I think that might be something that we get more of kind of as time goes by as well. But I think a lot of the mentees kind of do show a lot of after the program, they do really show a want to be mentors as well, kind of to give back as well, because they obviously received kind of information that they want to pass on to.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Great. Well, thank you very much, everyone. We are right on time, so we will end here. And thank you to everyone. So thank you to the speakers, so Sam, Ellen and Lucy, and also Catherine and other Lucy. And thank you to everyone who has attended and contributed to the questions.